The Radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, welcome everybody on this Sunday afternoon. Hope you're having a great weekend and enjoying yourself in spite of these crazy, insane times. So I thought I'd do a show today on surviving. Originally I thought surviving, now surviving's too negative. Thriving, doing well, succeeding, being happy, flourishing in these crazy times that we live in. 2020 certainly has turned into a, into quite a year. I can't quite remember a year like it. Maybe 2001 with 9/11, 2001, 2, that period, but not even that, or 2008, 9, but not even that. It's just, there's just one thing after the other, and they feed off of each other. We started, of course, with the pandemic, with the coronavirus, lockdowns, massive unemployment. People have forgotten how many unemployed people there are in the U.S. today. Massive government response, huge printing of money, massive Federal Reserve response, all kinds of distortions in our economy, more and more unemployment, more and more structural shifts, structural changes in the economic landscape. And then, of course, we got the police murder in Minneapolis, demonstrations, riots, more demonstrations, Trump being Trump both during the coronavirus and during this. So complete, utter lack of leadership from the White House, state governors being authoritarian, dominating, demonstrations where some governors and mayors do nothing. Some, have unleashed the police in extraordinarily violent manner. The whole spectrum, and it's just everywhere you look, there's something burning, something being destroyed, something falling apart. I guess everybody knows 2 nights ago the police shot another unarmed black man in Atlanta. More demonstrations, more riots, more burning. It seems endless, and of course it feeds off of each other. People who are locked down are frustrated, they're being cooped up, no outlet for the energy, for frustration. They get angry, anger breeds protests, the protests lead some to riot, the riot leads to police responses, which lead to more protests, which lead to more riots, which on it goes. And of course, many of the people unemployed are also, many of the people demonstrating or even rioting are potentially unemployed, huge uncertainty about their future, concerned about their future, worried about their future, fearful about the future. Fear adds up to the frustration and the anger. Fear adds to fear, and to it just goes on and on and on. And all of this exacerbated by COVID, which adds to the fear. Are we seeing a second wave? Are people going to get infected because of the demonstrations? Are hospitals capable of treating them? What exactly is going to happen? Is there seasonality? Isn't there seasonality? Huge levels of uncertainty all around us. And it's rough. And there's no question, I would say, that coming out of this great period of uncertainty, it definitely looked like the extreme, irrational, emotionalist elements of both left and right are going to be the victors, are going to win. Black Lives Matter is the most popular movement right now in America. Their agenda is actually being manifest in places like Seattle. We have this anarchist, independent little thing. And then, in the city of Minneapolis, where they just voted to dismantle the police. So Black Lives Matter is on the rise. The leftist extreme agenda of the new left, the nihilistic left, is dominant within the Democratic Party. And dominant within the Democratic Party, it is the voice in the party. There is almost nobody else. And everybody's gonna gravitate to the left. If you don't, you'll be called a racist. If you don't, you're one of the bad guys. And of course, the response to all of this is going to be on the right, by some people at least. It's going to be, well, and I've said this many times, we can play the race card, we can play the nihilistic card, we can be just as bad as you guys. We'll vote Donald Trump to a second term and give him a mandate to be even nuttier than he is today. And one of the real possibilities out there, if you look at the polls, and I don't know, and I don't make political predictions because I'm not very good at it, but the polls right now suggest that not only is Donald Trump probably going to lose, or the polls suggest he's going to lose, and lose by big margins. Biden is leading Trump by bigger margins than Hillary led Trump at this point. But that Republicans are going to get wiped out in the Senate. And we're going to elect a Democratic president with not just a Democratic House, which they're sure to maintain, but with now a Democratic Senate, like the first 2 years of Obama. And we know the kind of catastrophes that happen there. We got Obamacare because of that. When you give that kind of power to the Democrats. So we'll have a Democratic president without divided government, which is truly brutal. Truly brutal. Anyway, it's easy to be depressed. And I decided to try to do a show on how not to be depressed. Because I don't want you to be depressed. Life is too short to be depressed about these things. You got to know what's going on in the world. And you got to be willing to fight it in whatever way you can. And most of us don't have a lot we can do to fight it. But we have some. Whether you listen to the show or you share it or you support the show or you write letters or you tweet or you do some stuff on Facebook. There's a way in which every one of you can fight. And I know many of you do fight, and that's great. But that's just one very narrow dimension of life. You don't want to just fight for your survival. You don't want to just fight against the evil. And by the way, your chances of actually making a change, your chances of actually having an impact on the next election, on the direction the country goes, are small. In the short run, we have no influence. In the long run, I think we do, but in the short run, we have no influence. So what do? How do you not get depressed? Well, I've said this often on the show, but it is worth repeating over and over and over and over again because it's worth repeating, because it's true, and because people don't seem to take it seriously. There are things in life you cannot control, and there are things in life you can. And you've got to separate the two, and you've got to realize what is controllable and what is not. The world of politics, the world of culture, you have some small impact on. And we'll talk about how you have some impact in your own life on the politics, but you're not going to change the culture in the short run. You don't have a big impact. So yes, activism is good. Ayn Rand said, fighting for the future is living in it today. That is all true, and if you don't fight, you will feel like you're betraying your values, and you will feel rotten, and you won't be able to live a flourishing, successful life. I think the time for not fighting is over. It's survival mode, so you have to fight. So one way in which you can feel better about yourself, your life, your presence on this planet is to fight the bad guys. But again, you have to realize who the bad guys is. Pretty much everybody. Fight evil wherever you see it. But realize that the impact you're going to have there is minimal. to non-existent in the short run. And then try to scope out, and it's not a bad idea to make a list, all those areas in your life which you have control over. Most of your life. I don't know, anywhere from 60 to 80%, maybe 90% of your life, you have control over what you do every day. Yes, the political circumstances impact that. If you're in lockdown, they certainly impact it a lot. But even then, from a day-to-day, minute-by-minute basis, you get to control what you do with your time, what you do with your life. So make a list of all those things. And then start acting in the areas where you have control over your life. Start acting in ways that maximize your well-being, maximize your happiness, maximize your ability to pursue your values. I'll give you one example that's related to politics. Some of you live in pretty shitty places. And I mean shitty places here in the sense of places where there are demonstrations, riots, where stores are broken into, where you feel unsafe to walk the streets, where you walk around and you look at the world and you say, what the hell is going on? The world is falling apart around me. No jobs, high unemployment. The world is literally falling apart where you live. This might be in parts of New York right now. It might be Chicago or Detroit or Minneapolis right now. It might be anywhere in California, Los Angeles or San Francisco. So one of the things you should and can do is move. Move. Now, I'm not saying you have to move. I'm not saying you should move. But I'm saying you have to, if you value your life, consider moving. Make a list. Pluses and minuses of living in Chicago. And if the minuses not outnumber, but if the minuses are heavier, are more substantial, are more threatening, are more damaging to your life than the pluses, maybe families close by, or that's where your current job is. But if the minuses are heavier, then move. One of the beautiful things, amazing things about America, one of the things I love about the United States of America is that it's big. Size in some things in life does matter. And the fact that the United States is big matters. It means you have the ability, without a visa and a passport and a job permit or whatever, you can move to a completely different place with a completely different vibe, a completely different environment. If you live in Chicago, not only does the weather suck, but there are riots in the streets. If you live in Minneapolis, they're about to dismantle the police. Get out of there. Even if you live in the suburbs of Minneapolis. And if you like the cold, I don't, but if you like the cold, then move to Wisconsin. I don't know, move somewhere that's more rational than Minneapolis. Move somewhere that's just at the margin, better than Chicago. If weather's not that important to you, or if you hate the cold like me, then there's some amazing places to move to. You can move to Texas. I mean, people make fun of Texas, but Texas is a wonderful place. It's beautiful. There's tons of stuff to do. The people are amazingly friendly. The weather is, except for the summer, is actually pretty good. And the level of freedom is much higher. You don't see the level of destruction, the level of rioting that you see in some cities in America, in Texas. Even leftist cities like Austin, they're not dismantling the police. And with regard to response to coronavirus, Texas responded much better, still badly, but much better than many other states. So move. Austin is amazing. Houston, you have to really tolerate humidity. San Antonio's even pretty. And Dallas is amazing. Or move to Florida. Florida, if you love the beach, can't go wrong. Or move to Tennessee, Memphis or Nashville. The area around Nashville is beautiful. Plenty of places to live. And if you live in California, why are you paying so much taxes? I mean, California is an amazing place. So again, you have to do the plus and the minuses. But if you're really sick of it, sick of the homelessness in San Francisco, I mean, the homeless in San Francisco, I mean, we have homeless here in Puerto Rico, who are on the streets and at the traffic stops and everything. But the homeless in San Francisco are the most aggressive I have ever seen anywhere in the world. Why are you still there? And if you're paying huge amount of taxes in California, I get the weather. There's no place on planet Earth that has better weather than California, particularly Southern California. I get the culture. I get the vibe. I love California. And yet, it's out of control. I mean, you're still in lockdown in the Bay Area. It's supposed to be a place that respects science, and you're still in lockdown in the Bay Area. So move. Arizona is much freer, lower taxes. There's some beautiful places in Arizona, and some lower taxes, and lots of different climates. You can go cool, northern Arizona where it's colder, and you can go southern Arizona where it's really, 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 really hot but dry. You can go to, Nevada. I don't understand anybody who lives in Nevada, but you can go to Nevada, not pay state taxes at least. I mean, there are lots and lots and lots of options. It's a big country. You can find anything you want. Just because you were born somewhere doesn't mean that's where you need to stay. Just because you've lived somewhere 20 years doesn't mean that's where you want to stay. You've always got to be selfish. You've got to constantly think about what is good for me. Where will I be happiest? Where can I live the best life that I can? And right now, in the world in which we live right now, place seems to matter. Place seems to matter. Some places are nuttier than others. The madness is out there. It's in the culture and it's going to spread. So you might not be safe for long. But at least for the time that you have, that we all have, to be safe, be in a place where you can really be safe. So take control of your life, in other words. Somebody says, Amy Peacock's leaving California. I left California. Everybody can leave California. I know a lot of people who are leaving California. Take control over those parts of your life that are in your control. And dwell less and less. Practice. Sam Harris is very popular and very successful and made a lot of money with his meditation app. And the whole idea of meditation. He's made meditation really, really cool. I don't do meditation. I don't get meditation. That's fine. But I've got nothing against meditation. But what I'm encouraging you to do is deeper than meditation. It's more important than meditation. Spend real time every week thinking about how to make your life better. Thinking about the things you control in your environment and how to make them better. How to live a better, happier, more fulfilling, more thriving life. If you get to the point, where you're old, I don't know, you're in the 80s, and you look back, there's nothing I can think of that's sadder than looking back in your life and saying, I wasted it. I didn't do what I wanted to do. I didn't live up to my expectations. I let the political reality cause me to be depressed for decades, and I just was depressed. There are vast areas of your life you have control, including where you live. And you might come to the conclusion you want to leave the United States. That is not heresy. There might come a time where you figure that, I don't know, New Zealand is better. Or Australia or I don't know, Georgia, the country, Tbilisi, is better, and you move. That needs to be part of your consideration. And that relates to the politics, the environment in which you live. Find an environment that's more, and you don't have to make a decision. You could, particularly if you're young, you can go for a year here and a year there. Now it's hard, I know, because of work. And that's the second thing. Career is in your control. Where you live is in your control, so is career. Career, in a sense, is more important than where you live. But again, in the world in which we live right now, maybe where you live becomes very important because literally your life is where your life, just physically, you're being threatened. So yeah, somebody says vote with your feet. Yeah, vote with your feet. But think about your career. Step back. Most of us decide on a career at a certain point, get on a treadmill, and go for it. And it's good. Once a year, once a month, once a week. To ask the question, is this really what I want to do? Is this the path I want to take in life? If I spend the next 20 years doing this, will I look back and be happy with that decision? Will I look back and be satisfied with my life? Is this good? Is this good for me? Be selfish in every aspect of your life. So you should think about what you're doing right now. What career you have right now. Is this the career you want? And if it is, go full out. Go for it. Engage with it. Make the most of it. Be the best that you could be in it. Immerse yourself in it. Now, again, even there might be a circumstance where, because of the politics, you can't. Well, find a way to do it. Find a way to get it done. I don't know, you're in the restaurant business and restaurants are being shut down because your governor is a, dictatorial maniac. Then again, consider moving and opening up a restaurant somewhere else. I know it's hard. I know it's challenging. I know you might not have the funds. You might have to work for a while to get them. You might have to borrow more money. These things are difficult. But you can't give up. You can't give up on your life, on the meaning of your life. So again, make a list. All the things that you have control over. All the things you have control over. And then optimize those things. Optimize where you live. Optimize what your career is and how you engage in that career. Make it the central purpose of your life. Make it what your life is about. Take it super seriously. Engage. Be passionate. Go for it. And then think about what you know. Think about the knowledge you have. And whether in order to be happy and successful and flourish in your life, you need to know more things, different things. And go study. I said at the beginning of this lockdown, it's an opportunity to actually go study. Objectivism would be a good thing to study. Read Ayn Rand, listen to Leonard Peikoff, read Opal, Objectivism, Philosophy of Ayn Rand, engage with the ideas, study them, make a study of them, because it will improve your life. Because it'll make your life richer. Because it'll embolden you to be more selfish, which is the point. So think about studying, learning, broadening your mind. Read books. It's so easy these days not to read. But you got to read books. That's where the knowledge of mankind is stored. That's where real wisdom, real knowledge is available. Yeah, podcasts are nice. Podcasts are good. But it's not everything. So expand your mind. Grow your knowledge. You know, one of the things that makes a happy person, I think, is curiosity. Be curious. Try to understand stuff. Figure stuff out. Don't focus on, we focus on politics so much. We want to know every aspect of what's going on in Chav, in the autonomous zone in Seattle. Who cares? Who cares? Focus on your mind, your knowledge, what's available to you. Spend your time reading about history, or whatever interests you, technology, science. Don't obsess about politics. What is under your control? That is the question. And what the content of your mind is certainly, the content of your knowledge is certainly under your control. Expand it. You want to thrive, you want to flourish? Know more. Think more. Engage more. But know more. For you. For your own sake. For your own values. For your own life. Figure out what interests you. And if you're not curious, become curious. Start reading about different things. Maybe something will spark an interest. But you've got to be active pursuer of knowledge. Knowledge doesn't just fall into your lap. You've got to actively go out there and pursue it. And not on social media. There's very little knowledge on social media. I've got like 100 books on my Kindle that I'm waiting to read. On all kinds of topics. And my biggest problem in life is to know what to focus on, because so many things interest me. There's so many things I want to pursue. There's so many things I want to know. There's so many things I'd like to study that focusing on one or two is the difficult part. Embrace that. Embrace the opportunity that technology has given you to expand your horizons in ways that are unimaginable. Unimaginable. So, think about where you live. Think seriously about your career and whether you're taking it seriously and whether it's the right one for you. Expand your knowledge. And find people that you like to hang out with. Not online, but in the flesh. One of the things that this lockdown has really made clear to me, that while Zoom is amazing, while interaction digitally is great, and that, yes, we can do meetings and we can even hang out socially via Zoom and we can do all kinds of things via Zoom that break the sense of loneliness of being stuck in a lockdown. So, it's great that this is happening in the 21st century. We have all these tools. It still is not like being in person. There's something about being with another person in a physical space that is unique. So find friends. Make friends. They don't have to be aligned on every issue. They don't have to be politically aligned or even philosophically aligned. Depends on the kind of friendship you want to make. You can have friends to go to music concert with and different friends to talk philosophy with. They don't have to be the same. Find people who share your values. That's the key, that they share your values. And that you enjoy. You get something real out of being with them. So go out and find people to hang out with. Don't be stuck alone, again, with Zoom and Facebook, miserable and lonely. Find a lover. Well, if you're married, hopefully you found them already. Or if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend. But find somebody to be intimate with. Friendship is great. Romantic love is even better. But be active about it. Don't sit around waiting for it to happen. As if, just like everything else, life will just drop in your lap. Knowledge will just drop in your lap. The right place to live will just drop in your lap. The career will just drop in your lap. No, you've got to be active. You've got to pursue. You've got to engage. You've got to think about it, have a strategy around it, and do it. And do it. And then something that I've talked about in the past often is surround yourself with beautiful things. Make your environment such that you smile when you walk into your home. Where you can stop once in a while and look at a painting you've maybe seen 1,000 times and see something new in it. And get energy from it. And get passion from it. You know, I have sculptures all over the place and paintings on the wall. And they don't have to be originals. God, I mean, if you had to have originals, nobody could afford them. Posters. Just posters. It's fine. I mean, it's a decent quality. Then you get the effect of the painting. Not fully. Yes, having an original is ideal, but don't wait for an original or high quality print. Put stuff that's beautiful on your walls, on your counters, and have preferences in terms of beauty. One of the things Ayn Rand was very strong on was have favorites. Have favorites. Even if they're just your favorites. Have favorites. Right? And pursue them. Pursue them. Make them yours. Make them real. Yeah, somebody says, I prefer mediocre originals to high quality copies. I don't. I prefer high quality copies to anything mediocre. But, fine. If that's what you prefer, then get mediocre originals. But I am surrounded by high quality copies and very, very happy with them if the art is great art. If the art itself is inspiring. And what I want on my walls is not just great art. I want inspiring art. I want art that makes me go, yes. But pick beautiful things in all aspects. Just try to live in a nice surrounding. Again, what's in your control? Maybe you can't have a glorious view out your window, but you can have a glorious view inside your little room. So you can flourish. You can thrive, even in a crazy world that we live in. You can do so by doing a few things, just to summarize, and then I'll do the super chat questions. One is, make a list of the things that you can control and that you can't. Focus your energy on that which you can control. Focus your energy on that which you can change. Engage in politics and philosophical struggle that exists in the world today. Up to a limit. Limit yourself every day. You want to change the world. That's great. That's part of living a flourishing life. But don't obsess. Don't get depressed. Fight. Allocate a certain time of your day to fighting and to catching up on the news, and that is it. And make it short. Spend the rest of your time on hobbies, on art, on reading, on knowledge, on watching a great movie, on listening to great music, on going to a museum, and on your career, on making your life, your work life, the best that it can be, and achieving something. So when you look back, you are proud of what you've achieved, what you've done. And finally, if the politics are oppressive where you live more so than in other places, and it is affecting you, and it is hurting your ability to be happy, then move. Move as far as you need to in order to be happy. Again, you only have one life. Every minute that you have, you will never have again. So, embrace those minutes. Embrace every one of them. Live them to the fullest. It's your life to live. Nobody else's. Nobody else will do the work for you. Nobody else will solve your problems for you. Nobody else will get you out of bed, get you off the sofa, put a book in your hands. You need to do it. And don't delay. Because tomorrow, you've wasted all of today. So, there's never, or not never, it's rare to have an excuse not to do something meaningful with your life. It's very rare that you have an excuse, a reason, a legitimate reason, not to achieve happiness. Yes, there are things that can happen that make that impossible. But for most of us, still, that is not the case. All right. Let's see. We've got some questions here. What role does art play in a flourishing life? I think a big one, and an underappreciated one. I don't think you can have a fully flourishing life without art. Ayn Rand talks about that in the Romantic Manifesto. I highly, highly encourage you to read the Romantic Manifesto. There's nothing I can say that can even reflect even a little bit of the huge amount of wisdom and knowledge and truth that is in that book. But because we're conceptual beings, because we require very abstract knowledge, for example, knowledge of morality, knowledge in epistemology, knowledge even about metaphysics, we all have to make choices about metaphysics. Do we believe the world is knowable? That makes a big difference to how you live. Do we think the causality is real? Makes a big difference in how you live. Well, all of this philosophical knowledge is very hard to hold in your mind. Indeed, impossible to hold in your mind in every second of what you do. Now, principles help us. They condense this knowledge into sentences, into ideas, into words that we can hold. But even then, it's abstract, it's removed from the concretes, it's not inspiring, and it's hard to run your life that way. Art serves the purpose of taking those wide abstractions, those crazy abstractions, and making them real, concretizing them, making them a part of your life. And think about it this way. A beautiful painting, which is clear and crisp, and describes something in the world out there that is clearly, it describes a world to you that is knowable. Concretizes metaphysics in a way for you. It concretizes this idea that the world is knowable. Wow, look at what I can see in here. Look at the details. It focuses your attention on what the artist views as important, thus orienting you to look for what is important. If you go to a museum Go to a museum of great art from 19th century or previously, and just go look at 5 or 10 paintings and really focus and really see where your eye goes. Let your eye go where the artist wanted it to go. Usually they use light to move you around the painting. They use all kinds of techniques to emphasize where they want you to look. And start noticing things. Look around the podium. Why did the artist do this? Why did they do that? What's there? When you go home, you'll suddenly look at your apartment or your home differently. It'll reorient the way you look at the world. So, art serves this vital emotional function of giving out abstract concepts a reality in the world, an image of what it is. So it's really impossible for conceptual being not to have that. I mean, think about when you read a novel. I mean, my favorites here would be, other than Rand, would be Hugo. And you're just absorbed in that world. You're sunk into it. You live in it. It inspires. It gives you energy and passion, and because you love the characters in it. I mean, I just finished watching for the second time Mr. Sunshine. And man, was I sad when it ended. Because while I was in that universe, I was inspired by the heroism of the characters, by their benevolence, by their dedication to values, by their willingness to fight no matter what the odds were, no matter what was at stake, to fight for those values, not willing to compromise or give up anything for those values, including when the values were important enough their lives. I mean, to live in that world that is so inspiring, to live in that world which is, it just gives you energy to be able to do the rest of your day, the rest of your life. It helps you find meaning in your life, find values in your life, and give you the courage, the energy, the passion to pursue those values. That's what art does. And it's just fun. It's enjoyable. So I don't think you can have a fully flourishing, thriving life without art. And I encourage you again to experiment, to try different things, to try different genres, to try different perspectives. And don't just stick to what you grew up with. Don't just stick to what you like today. Push yourself. Broaden your horizons. Challenge yourself. Read some art history. It's fascinating. Art history is fascinating. It's so interesting. And it's so correlated to philosophy. But sometimes it comes before the philosophy. Sometimes art becomes better before the culture becomes better. So, I mean, it's really interesting to read art history. So, I encourage you to go out and pursue and find the values that are yours and embrace them and commit yourself to them. When is it proper time to shrug? Well, I mean, what do you mean by shrugging? Where would you shrug to? So you'd have to have a plan. You'd have to know what shrugging is. And each one of us, the proper time to shrug would be different. But first of all, you have to make sure that post-shrugging, you would be happier than pre-shrugging. Are you going to have your friends with you? Can you still pursue a career, or any kind of career, or something that interests you, or passion, or hobby? Do you have enough money to live on? Are you indeed protected from the mayhem that is going on around you? Because if you're still in the United States, if you're not in a valley somewhere, how do you avoid the mayhem? So, shrugging, I know people have gone off and they've established, their own self-sufficient farm or whatever, self-sufficient energy, everything self-sufficient. Then I guess you can do that, but I would be lonely and I would be bored. But some people find that as their passion. So it has to be your choice. It has to be something you embrace, that you figure out. By the way to ask questions is by using Super Chat on YouTube. I don't really follow the chat on Facebook, so you can move to YouTube and follow there and ask a question by using the Super Chat question if you want to. In addition, I just want to remind you before I go on to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Even if you're on Facebook, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It matters. Growth in subscription affects the algorithm. Like the show, share the show, Facebook or YouTube, doesn't really matter. And for those of you who get value out of the show, please support the show. You can do that on yaronbrookshow.com/support or on Patreon or Subscribestar or anywhere else. So shrugging really depends on your circumstances and whether you have a plan or not to what you do post-shrug. And you have to, shrugging means going on strike, and you have to make sure that your life is indeed better after you go on strike. Just remember that, somebody wrote, your show's an oasis of reason and passion, thank you. Also, Ayn Rand wrote The Fountain and Atlas Shrugged during World War II, the New Deal. Personal values can still be achieved amid political atrocities. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're not yet in such a horrific situation, a concentration camp, where you cannot pursue your personal values. It becomes harder and harder the more they oppress us, and depends on your profession. But you can still do it. Ayn Rand's Fountainhead was rejected by 12 publishers. Would an atheist need meaning to life? Yes. Hedonism is a life wasted. Hedonism is senseless. It is empty. It is self-destructive. It is harmful. It is destructive. So no, atheism does not mean hedonism, and hedonism is not a way to live. It's a way to die. Life requires purpose. The purpose, ultimately, of life is your personal happiness and everything that entails. But personal happiness is too abstract and too removed, and it's not something you can grab. It's something you attain. So you have to have purposes that lead to the ultimate purpose, which is your happiness. And those purposes are things like the central purpose, which is a career, but having a successful family, having successful relationships with people, having hobbies. So you have to have a whole hierarchy of value. All of that, your purpose, your hierarchy of value is, in a sense, that's what the meaning in life is. That's what meaning is. Meaning is not something external that you strive towards, like a God you strive to appease or you strive to make happy. Although why God would want to be happy, I don't know. Why he needs you to be happy, I have no idea. It's a silly concept. But since there is no God, your purpose is internal in a sense. It is the requirements for your life. It's the requirement for your happiness. That's your purpose. That's your meaning, sorry. That's your meaning. So meaning is you. Meaning is your life. Meaning is your happiness. Meaning is the values, the sum of the values that are necessary for you to live the best life that you can live. The sum of the values necessary for you to live a happy life. That's meaning to an atheist. I'm sitting here with my screenwriting partner as we're working on the next great project, and we're feeling like it's our version of Yaron Church. Perfect topic for today. Yes, this is Yaron Church, right? Church has a value. So, I don't know, this might be controversial in objectivism. But there is a value to being reminded on a regular basis of your values. Being inspired on a regular basis to pursue your values, to pursue your life. I mean, and the church was very smart, particularly the Catholic Church, Because the church understood a long, long time ago that in order to be successful, it needed to drive people towards their values. And it used art to do that. Think about the Catholic Church and how it used music. It got musicians to write beautiful pieces that inspired people. And maybe a big part of going to church in those days was to hear a new piece by Bach. To get out of the monotony of life and be inspired by something great. Or imagine going to church in the Sistine Chapel and seeing Michelangelo's painting on the ceiling and on the wall in front of you. Getting away from that monotony of life and coming to be inspired. Or think about walking into the Vatican and seeing Bernini's sculptures or Michelangelo's Pietà, and again, being inspired. So I like the idea of objectivist church, not in the sense of religion, but in a sense of having a regular place that you can go to be inspired, to be reminded of your values, to be reminded of the practical application of your philosophy, to be reminded of the virtues and values that you should live your life by. Because it's so easy to just get stuck in a particular path in life and just live it day to day without getting perspective on it. And sometimes you need somebody to slap you around and remind you, stop, think, focus, slow down, think, prioritize, make a list. Life is too short to get caught up in the monotony of it. So, I don't mind the comparison to slap, I mean metaphorical slap, right? I don't mind the comparison to a church. But, and I think, in the future, there are all kinds of things that objectivism is going to have to provide that religion provides today. Church being one of them, a gathering place where people are reminded of their values and inspired to pursue their values in the week to come. Maybe it's a Zoom YouTube show. Maybe it's a physical presence, because I said there's a huge value to physical presence. But also, think about objectivist wedding ceremonies, objectivist funerals, objectivist ceremonies generally. These things are needed. We need to know how to mourn. Mourning is not, what do you do to mourn? How do you deal with mourning? There's certain ways in which it is rational and emotionally empowering to do it right. Right? So there's your new slogan. Yaron Brook Show is our church. All right. As long as I'm not the Pope. I hate the Pope. Let's see. Do you view the U.S. Founding Fathers as objectivists? I thought it was cool that Ben Franklin had put phrase, mind your business, on the first U.S. coin. No, absolutely not. The Founding Fathers were not objectivists. You cannot have been an objectivist until people read Ayn Rand, right? Objectivism is a particular philosophy. And being an objectivist means embracing that philosophy. Now, the founders embraced many of the ideas that are consistent with objectivism, but they didn't embrace objectivism. It didn't exist. And they certainly didn't embrace all the ideas of objectivism, not even the most fundamental ideas of objectivism. Most of the founders were deists, not atheists. While they venerated reason, they didn't quite have the understanding and the appreciation of reason that Ayn Rand gives us. While they valued the pursuit of happiness, they didn't have and didn't believe in and didn't pursue a morality of self-interest, a morality of egoism. So, no, you cannot apply categories like that. Objectivism relates to, it's like, you can't say, was Greek sculpture romantic? It doesn't apply. The Romantic movement's the 19th century movement. It can't apply backwards. You can say the elements of what we come to understand as romanticism in this and this author that predates romanticism, but you can't apply the name of a idea backwards. And that is true of, certainly true of objectivism. So no, Aristotle was not objectivist, founding fathers were not objectivists. They shared many of the ideas with modern day objectivists, but they certainly didn't share all of them. They couldn't have. Ayn Rand created a system. That system didn't exist before she discovered it. How does the French economy function given that it's illegal to fire anyone? I mean, it's a good question. There is enough freedom in the system that it can survive without that. So companies still go out of business. They go bankrupt. There are ways to fire somebody, but it's very difficult. It's not like you can never fire anybody. Same in Japan. It's very, very, very difficult to fire people, but it can be done in the circumstances in which it is done. The French economy has certain degrees of freedom in it. Otherwise, it wouldn't survive. But just imagine how well the French economy would do if they actually were flexible and actually had capitalism. So, making it really, really difficult to fire people is going to slow down the economy, but it will not destroy it 100%. If other things in the economy are looser. And what exactly, I don't know enough about the French economy to comment on what, in a sense, holds it together. If I get a letter in the mail saying I have to go to a gulag or concentration camp, how should I proceed? You run away. I mean, that's how you should proceed. You run for the hills. You run for the border. You run for somewhere where they can't find you and catch you, if they're stupid enough to send you a letter. Right? So, your survival is what matters. At that point, you do what you need to do in order to survive. I have 4 young kids. What are suggestions for building self-esteem and independence? We had the cops visit when we let 2 kids go 2 blocks away alone. Well, that's insane. I mean, my parents should have been in jail constantly if that were the case, because I was never within 2 blocks of home. I came back from school, dropped my backpack, bye, Mom, and came back for dinner. And I would wander all over the place. We would go on bus all over the place when we were young, 8, 9 years old. We used to go everywhere. But when I was 4, I crossed the street and went to kindergarten by myself in the morning. My mother says she still has nightmares about that one. So you have to find contexts to let them be independent, to let them take risks, to let them be alone. And how you create this context, I don't have any ideas off the hand, but you got to find places, safe spaces where they can do that, and where the cops won't bug you, whether it's out hiking or I don't know. And then in the house, you've got to find ways to encourage their independence. That doesn't mean letting them do whatever they want all day long, because that is a huge mistake. Right? So you've got to let them fail, let them succeed. You should never be proud of them. They should be proud of themselves. They should be doing it for themselves, not for you. They're not there to please you. They're there to please themselves. You should try to focus them on using their mind, on reading, the lost art of reading, of finding things they love and pursuing the things that they love. Expose them to arts when they're young. Help them to be physical, whether it's sports, different kinds of sports. I'm not an expert on raising kids, but those are a few ideas. Under objectivism, is the destruction of private property a greater moral wrong than the destruction of public government property? I mean, maybe at the margin, but destruction of property is wrong. and it depends on the context. Why are you destroying public and government property? What's the purpose? So yes, there can be a context in which destroying public property is valid, a revolution. But in normal circumstances, no, you have to treat public property as if it's private. Otherwise, you embrace anarchism. You embrace negation of the rule of law. Leadership show soon, starting my management job. I'll try. It requires a lot of prep. Okay, leadership. I wrote it down. Maybe that'll help. Do you view, I got this. Thank you for answering. My context is a plan to make an objective, games-based educational system. My strike would be simply making odd games, small scale. I'm wondering if it is too late for that. No, I don't think it's too late for that. As long as you think there's a market, as long as you can live on it, as long as you enjoy it and have a good time doing it, then absolutely, absolutely. Find the thing that will give you the most for your life, that will enhance your life the most. That should be your focus. That should be your focus. Whoops, I think I deleted something once then. Yeah, no, I was supposed to delete that. So it's never too late, or at least never is too strong a word. It's not too late to shape your life in the way, you have to think about it, you have to rationally think about it, you have to make sure that the games you're creating, there's a market for them, even if it's small, and you can live off of that. But why not do the thing that you love doing? Is taking Atlas Shrugged literally a mistake? Yes. Should we strike? Maybe. Or try to fix the world? Yes. If it were actually possible to create a hidden gulch, should we try? Maybe. So absolutely it's wrong to take Atlas Shrugged literally. It's a story. It's a story that illustrates certain philosophical truths, but the story is not true and is not to be emulated. The point about the strike is not that you should go on strike. The point about the strike is to illustrate what happens when the men of the mind go on strike. The point of the strike is to realize that altruism is making you a victim to those who would exploit you. The intellectuals, the politicians, the people in power. The point of the strike is not to go on strike. The point of the strike in Atlas Shrugged is to show you what happens. To show you the moral consequence of staying, to show you, it's a way to illustrate egoism. It's a way to illustrate the value of the human mind on the world around you. Now, you should try to fix the world. Remember that even in Atlas Shrugged, part of the reason for the strike is to fix the world. They intend to return. Part of the reason for the strike is to destroy the world as it is so that a new one, better one, can emerge. Again, that's fiction. Trying to fix the world is a value. You live in the world. You should try to fix the world in which you live. Now, striking is giving up on the world, and at some point that is appropriate, and you could give up, and that's fine, if you think that's the best for your life. But again, you have to take everything into account, all the considerations into account in terms of doing that. And if there was a gulch, maybe, depends who lived there. Not everybody who wants to be in Gold Gulch, I want to be with. There's a lot of pretense in objectivism and among objectivists and people who claim to like Ayn Rand who have no idea what she's like. So who's living there? What's it like? What would I do there? So everything has to be within the context of your life and your values. But I can imagine the right kind of gulch at the right kind of environment in the right kind of world being appropriate. A lot of things would have to be right though. Is Superman absent virtue? He has great power and chooses to help others without pay. Is he immoral in the view of an objectivist? Yeah, in a sense he is. He is not pursuing his own happiness. He's not pursuing his own values. He's not helping others because he views that as a great value. He actually suffers as a result. He never gets the girl. He can't get the girl. He does it out of a sense of duty. So yes, to the extent that Superman does what he does out of a sense of duty, he is immoral. But you can imagine a Superman being moral, where he's helping others because he enjoys helping others, because he believes helping others will create a better world for himself, because this is a way for him to manifest his own talents and skills. It's like, you don't say, is it moral to be a doctor? Because all day long, all you're doing is treating other people. But you like that. It's a challenge. It's a huge challenge to your mind. You're engaged. You're solving problems. And you're dealing with the world around you in a way that improves your life and improves the lives of people around you. So Superman can be virtuous if he's selfish. And that doesn't mean he stops helping other people. I mean, you can be a social worker and be an objectivist. You can certainly be a doctor and be an objectivist. Lots of professions are focused on helping other people. But it has to be something that you find challenging, you find interesting, it's consistent with your values, and you love doing it. And I can imagine a Superman who loves doing what he does, and it doesn't stop him from getting the girl, and it doesn't stop him from embracing life and enjoying everything he does. But it's not the brooding, dark, unhappy superheroes that populate almost all superheroes' superhero comics, if you will. How does objectivism address civil responsibility? For example, a court of law requires an individual to serve on a jury or compelling a person to testify as a witness if the person doesn't want to do so. Well, I think civil responsibility in this context is part of what it means to live a moral life. You're living in a society that, in order to function based on the rule of law that you believe in, these are things that you have to do. So, I'd say it's a part of the virtue of integrity. If you say you believe in the rule of law, if you say you believe in juries, if you say you believe in truth, if you say you believe in honesty, then live it. If you say you believe in the rule of law, then when the law, in order to be manifest in reality, requires you to testify, then testify. The same about juries. If you believe in, and again, we could have a philosophical debate about whether we should have jury trials at all. I remember Leonard Peikoff did a couple of shows or a couple of lecture on why he didn't believe in jury trials. But let's assume jury trials are right and you believe in them. If you believe in jury trials and you believe they're an aspect of the rule of law, then you should be willing and happy to serve on a jury. So civil responsibilities are responsibilities derived from the rule of law and your personal integrity. So to be moral is to do the things necessary to make the kind of government you believe in a reality. Do you know the Russian novel We? It's being released as a Russian film. It's being released as a Russian film in 2021. Thoughts, comments? Strange Putin is allowing it. I've heard of the novel We. Some people say that Ayn Rand was inspired by it. It's supposedly an individualist movie that has some vague similarity to Anthem. I don't know. I have never read it, so I don't know it. I don't think Putin is so dictatorial that a film that was pro-individualism but wasn't a direct critique of him couldn't be released. So he's authoritarian, but loose in many respects. And I still think you can, as long as you don't criticize Putin, you can pretty much say what you want in Russia. As long as you don't criticize Putin, you can probably make whatever movie you want in Russia. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Sounds cool. I mean, it'll be interesting how the Russians make a film that's pro-individualism, right? Russia's not exactly a culture of individualism. Is there anything the left could do before November that could make you say that it's okay to vote for Trump? Yeah, they could nominate Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that could say, that could make me say that. Particularly if the Republicans lost the Senate. So at least we got rid of that. Republicans have to suffer the consequence of their complete and utter incompetence and evil. So, George Will wrote an op-ed recently saying he wants to see the Republicans just decimated in this coming election, just shredded, because they have been so bad the last 2 years and the last 4 years. And I'm sympathetic to that. The worry, of course, is what's going to happen to us if that happens, right? If the Democrats gain 60 seats in the Senate, oh my God, socialism everywhere. We're really going to be decimated. So I still like divided government. I worry that the Democrats are going to win everything. Probably not 60 seats in the Senate, but even with 51, you can get a lot done if you control the House as well and the presidency. So it's going to be difficult. So yeah, there are a lot of things. They could commit themselves to depolicing, getting rid of the police. They could embrace, Biden could embrace socialism. I mean, if Biden could move to the left dramatically, but in a way that I believed him, not in a way that just appeased his audience, then yeah, I would say don't vote for Biden. I mean, I'm not encouraging anybody to vote for Biden anyway. I mean, I think I am not voting because I can't, because I live in Puerto Rico, but I don't believe anybody should be inspired to vote out there, but I do think Republicans need to suffer the consequences of Trump, and I think Trump needs to lose. Ideally, Trump loses and Republicans gain the House and Senate. Unfortunately, that probably doesn't happen. But, I mean, what's his name? Bolton is coming out with his book in a week. I mean, I know John Bolton, and, I agree with him on a lot of things. I disagree with him on some things. But the book is going to be devastating to Trump. Because just like what Mattis said, Bolton is going to reveal Trump for the child, the imbecile, the moron that he really is, the unpresidential that he really is, the uncaring about the actual fate of the nation that really drives Trump. So I think that's who Trump is, and that a person like that should not be voted for president. But, if the alternative is so bad, then I guess you have to. Right? No, Trump is actually worse than what I just said. How would you grade Shapiro's response to systemic racism video you also criticized? I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched some of it. I would give it a B-, C+ maybe. I thought it was way too political. Oh, this is the Democrats. This is how the Democrats think. This is what the Democrats do. Who cares? Right? Question is truth. Not who holds what ideas. The question is truth. And there was a lot of that, right? Trying to figure out what's true and what's not, what's right or what's wrong. There wasn't enough of that in the video. So it was good, but it could have been, if you combine mine with his, I think there are a few things I probably missed, but I think if you look at the long version of mine, I think that was pretty good. I think there's a whole other discussion to be had about the philosophy, the leadership, the culture in certain communities, and how that leads to their failure. And I need to talk more about that, and I will at some point. Would a voting strategy where you just vote the opposition party to the incumbent be a rational idea? I do that. I often did that in when I don't know the candidates, like in local election for whatever, for dog catcher. But if I know the candidates, then you got to vote for whoever you think will do the least damage. Long term. Somebody's asking, has evil won? Well, so far, yeah. Has it won and it's over? No. Not as long as we all breathe, as long as we all have free will, as long as people exist who can think differently, and it's never over until it's over. So evil hasn't won yet because we're still fighting. Another reason to fight, to prevent evil from winning definitively. It's winning right now, but it hasn't won. Given that this world is currently so broken and irrational, how can we effectively persuade a world that desperately clings to being broken? There are no shortcuts. There are no gimmicks. There's no secret sauce. There's no one thing you tell people and it flips them. It means fighting mind by mind, person by person. I mean, getting better ideas out there. And again, I think you guys don't utilize social media well enough. Because I see how little you share, how little you retweet, how little you... It's a battle of ideas. But to get people to the ideas, you have to do some marketing. Social media is a great marketing tool. I would love to see all of you, the thousands of you, tweet about Atlas Shrugged and the Fountainhead, tweet about Ayn Rand's ideas, tweet about her books. Not try to invent the wheel. Try to get people to read stuff that already exists. Try to send them to an Ayn Rand article that you like. Most of them are available for free online at ARI campus. Tweet about Leonard Peikoff's courses. Tweet about my podcast. Retweet my tweets. Retweets the Ayn Rand Institute's tweets. If there are thousands of you, your retweets then get retweeted. That's how you build a force, a presence in social media. And it's how you give people the motivation. Oh, wow. I just keep getting these things. Ayn Rand here, Ayn Rand there. Right? Maybe I should read something by Ayn Rand. We've got to use whatever tools we have. We're the tiniest of minorities with the tiniest of voices. The only way to magnify our voice is through you. You need to be more active promoters of these ideas. Active promoters of these ideas. On Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on wherever you are on social media. And if you're not on social media, then among your friends, among whatever, YouTube, whatever, share, retweet. That's how you change the world. You get the ideas out to people. Make it easy for them to consume the ideas. Make it easy for them not to ignore them. Make it hard for them to ignore them. It's not objective jihad. Nobody's asking you to die. Nobody's asking you to fall on your sword. I'm asking you to be courageous and to place your ideas out there in the world so people know. I'm not asking you to kill anybody. I'm asking you to promote, to advocate, to evangelize. There's a good religious word. I want you to evangelize, not in an obnoxious way, but by telling people, I was inspired by Atlas Shrugged. You should read it. So become evangelists. Become retweeters. Become likers and sharers. That's what you need. Sharing is easy. Sharing is caring. Something like that. And that's how you fight. And you got to care. And you got to fight because it's fighting will make dealing with the shit in the world easier. It just will. Because you'll know you're doing something about it. You know you're standing up to your enemies. I don't need anybody knocked off. Oh, well, now that you mention it, maybe I have a few ideas. But what I need is for you to get the word out there. What I need for you guys is to get my subscription number up to 20,000 by the end of the month. That would be quite an achievement. And you guys can do it. I can't, but you guys can do it. What I need is for you guys to help me get the word out there about Ayn Rand, about Objectivism, about the ideas, about the show, about the Ayn Rand Institute, about all the material that's out there, about all the intellectual content. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Not sure exactly what the schedule is next week. Busy, a lot of work, particularly Monday, Tuesday. So I might skip Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday we'll do shows. We'll see. But definitely more shows. I'm glad you enjoyed the positive show. We'll do more positive shows. We'll do some negative shows. I'm out there fighting. Join me. Hey, Yaron, is there a website that I can get prior notifications on when you would be going on live YouTube, except Twitter, Facebook? Not really. I mean, there is on YouTube, if you subscribe and then you press on the little bell there, then it'll send you a notification when I'm live. But I'm usually just deciding when I go live like that day, because my schedule is so up in the air and partially depends on how tired I am that evening, because I do these at 8 p.m. usually. And if I'm exhausted, I just can't do it. So, yeah, I'm getting old. So I don't want to commit to a schedule. Just me. I know you guys would prefer me commit to a schedule, but I don't want to commit to a schedule. So during the week, it's almost always at 8 p.m. So just check up at 8 p.m. to see if I'm on. On the weekends, it varies. Sometimes it's in the afternoon, sometimes it's in the evening. Like last night was 8 p.m., but it varies. But in the weekdays, it's always at 8 p.m. East Coast time. So check during those times. But again, subscribe and click the bell. All right, everybody, have a great night. Don't forget to support the show, Yaron Brook Show.